Good evening. Happy Wednesday, Hebrew Israelite family, as we are again in our Wednesday evening Raw Wednesdays, which focus on current events as they relate to Bible prophecy. And of course, today is no different. As you can see from the thumbnail, this one is about the gods, with P. Diddy escaping the worst of the charges against him today. So he was found guilty of two of the five counts, all felony charges that were against him. The two counts that he was found guilty were of the prostitution counts. And so I'm looking at the AP now. I'll put this in the description box, but it looks like racketeering was guilty, not guilty. Sex trafficking by force, not guilty. Transportation for purposes of prostitution, guilty. Sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion, not guilty. And trafficking for purpose of prostitution, that's a second person. He was guilty on those. Each of those counts that he was guilty on hold a maximum penalty of 10 years. From what I saw today in the news, it looks like they may be leaning toward giving him a 5-year prison sentence and probably some time for time served, since he's been held in prison. But the point of this and of this exercise today, also, if you notice in the thumbnail, we have more than P. Diddy. We have P. Diddy. We have Johnny Depp, who an actress was accusing him of rape, and they made this woman sound like she was crazy. We have Harvey Weinstein, who a Hollywood producer, executive type dude that many accused of sexual rape and forcible sex acts on people, and women came forward. Then, of course, there was R. Kelly, who is a convicted pedophile. And so all of these people have fans that no matter what they do, their fans are behind them. So even though, for example, just today, even though Diddy was found guilty on 2 counts, he still had a crowd of people waiting for him to walk out of the courtroom today. Now, the judge had him held without bail. A couple of reasons for my understanding that they did that was, one, some of his victims are afraid of reprisal. And number 2, he is a convicted felon. So any convicted felon would not be granted bail. And so his lawyer, because he has a lot of money, said, he wants to be with his family. Well, so everybody wants to be with their family, right? So the judge did the right thing and said, no, he's not going to be able to be granted bail. He's going to stay right here until we get his sentence together. So the thing is, brethren, the point tonight, really, and we're going to talk about this in terms of Bible prophecy, but the point tonight is because people don't have a strong sense of right and wrong. Okay? Exactly, Sister Lamprou. He wanted to get his next freak off started. But because people don't have a strong sense, a solid sense of the truth of what's right and wrong, the power of media and celebrity affects how people think and how they judge. Okay? And people have different, like in the media and movies, people have been giving different yardsticks for what is right and wrong. And if you look at it, media, it will give you all kinds of yardsticks. Like one time, there was a reporter, and the reporter was doing an interview with Allen Iverson. And Allen Iverson, at this time, he was a basketball player that played most of his career for the Philadelphia 76ers. Made a lot of money while he played ball. But he was known to have a lot of different women, right? He was married. And so the reporter asked him about his infidelities. And he asked the reporter, have you ever cheated on your wife? And the reporter said, no, I never cheated on my wife. And then he asked the reporter, he said, have you ever broken a vow? Something to that effect. And he said, yeah. And he said, so what's the difference between you and me? He said, we can get a pass on something. So the reporter said, we can get a pass on some things. And you know what? Being a Hebrew in America, I don't think I have to explain to a lot of y'all that the media will have a double standard. Like the average Hebrew on the street is going to be treated differently than Diddy or any other celebrity, right? And so we have a standard. Some people's standards are based on what their mommy and daddy taught them. Some people's standards are based on what their church or religion taught them, whether it be the Talmud or the Quran or whatever, or Ellen White or the Book of Mormon. But for the awakened Hebrew, there's only one standard, only one book. It's the King James Bible. And of course, we recommend that you read through this book every year or more if it takes you that long. But read through it from Genesis to Revelation as a spiritual exercise and let the Father's Spirit guide you, because it will keep you in times of moral challenges of right and wrong. But a lot of people, without knowing it, and this is the thing, without realizing it, let's look at this again. Let's look at a couple of things. First, let's go to Jude. Jude was explaining in his letter, he's explaining what happened before the flood and what the society was like before the flood. Very good, Stephen Kelly. Praise the Most High Yah. But let's see what he says about the state of the society pre-flood. Okay, this is the state of society pre-flood. So let's begin. I'm going to begin at verse. Let's see. And he's talked. Let me start at verse 10. Let's start at verse 10 of the epistle of Jude and read from verse 10 down to verse 16. But these speak evil of those things which they know not, but what they know naturally as brute beasts. In those things they corrupt themselves. Woe unto them, for they have gone in the way of Cain, and have ran greedily in the error of Balaam for reward, and perished in the gainsaying of Korah. These are spots in your feasts of charity, when they feast with you, feeding themselves without fear. Clouds they are without water, carried about of winds, trees whose fruit withereth, without fruit, twice dead, plucked up by the roots. Raging waves of the sea, foaming out their own shame, wandering stars, to whom is reserved the blackness of darkness forever. And Enoch, see, he's talking pre-flood now, and Enoch, also the seventh from Adam, prophesied of these, saying, behold, Yahweh cometh with 10,000s of his saints to execute judgment upon all, and to convince all that are ungodly among them of all their ungodly deeds which they have ungodly committed, and of all their hard speeches which ungodly sinners have spoken against him. These are murmurers, complainers, walking after their own lust, and their mouth speaking great swelling words, having men's persons in admiration because of advantage. There's a lot here. Jude is a very small epistle, but he puts a lot. Some of these small epistles and small prophet books like Joel or Habakkuk or Obadiah, I mean, there's some powerful stuff, man. Jude is one of those. So he's talking about people that are in sin and unrepentant. Notice he says here, he said they ran greedily after the error in the way of Cain. Cain killed his brother Abel and then tried to deny it. Then he said, ran greedily after the error of Balaam. Balaam sold out his faith and his conscience for money. And they perished in the gainsaying of Korah. Korah stood up to Moses and said, you trying to lead, you trying to reign over us. And he perished. Moses, Yah's man. Then he said, there's spots in your feasts of charity. In other words, they'll sit down and eat with you as bold as you please, as if they're doing nothing wrong. Feeding themselves without fear. And then he says, there are clouds without water. Now, check this out. Clouds without water. So let's assume, like it's been now 100 degrees multiple days here in Florida. I don't know if it was today because I didn't go outside, but it's been 100 degrees multiple days. And some days in Florida, when it's real hot, you'll see some thunder clouds, dark clouds. And you're thinking, oh man, here comes some rain to cool stuff down. Then the clouds keep going. You don't get no rain, right? So you're expecting rain to cool things down because you got the clouds and it looks like rain and nothing comes. So he's saying there are people that look like they might be having something. They might have something to say. They might be presenting like they bringing truth. And they don't bring anything. Clouds without water. Okay. And then he said, trees without fruit. Remember, Messiah came to the tree. He was looking for fruit. I think it was a fig tree. He was looking for fruit on the fig tree. It was the time that fruit should have came. And there was no fruit on the tree. Fruit trees with no fruit. In other words, there's the promise of something, but there's nothing there. Now listen, I'm saying this because this is very common. You think because they're a celebrity and they could sing or they could dance or they could rap, that there's something there. And there's nothing there. R. Kelly could sing. But behind the singing talent, there's nothing there. P. Diddy's supposed to be a rapper. A lot of times, especially in the 80s and 90s, rappers would have messages in their music. And a lot of these Amalekite labels didn't realize that they were putting messages in their music. And when they did realize it, they would cut them off. Okay? They would cut them off. So they would have messages in the music for us. And we caught it. And that's why, for example, in the movie Get Out, they labeled that movie as a comedy. They even told all the actors it's a comedy. But if you look at that movie, there's a message that's deeper than any comedy. Okay? Man gets his mind snatched. Man gets his mind snatched by certain people. He's thinking they're his friends. They're his lovers. And they want to take his mind. So there are stuff that come with messages, but then there's the R. Kellys. There's the Harvey Weinsteins. That's supposed to be creative. There's the P. Diddy's. There's the Johnny Depps that can act like somebody else and make you think they're somebody else. And you enjoy watching that. Yeah, we all do. But behind it, there's nothing there. Okay, there's nothing there. It's true, Lonnie. But see, what did the Messiah say? Many times he said, he that hath ears to hear, let him hear. He said that many times. He that hath ears to hear, let him hear. And the Bible also says, and Yahweh added to the church daily such as should be saved. Right? So it's not for everybody. And the message of Revelation is not for everybody. It's for his servants. So the word of the Most High with the spirit of the Most High will guide us in hearing the message, will guide us in what is right and wrong. But when you are looking at celebrity, you won't have a sense of what's right and wrong. Notice again, he says here, they're raging waves of the sea. In other words, they get a lot of attention. Like he says at the end of what we read, he said, having men's persons in admiration because of advantage. In other words, what does that mean? Celebrity. Having men's persons in admiration because of their celebrity. See, I remember during the O.J. Simpson trial, and everybody, I know everybody I knew at the time was watching that trial every day. Okay, watching it in offices, they were watching it in schools, they was watching it at homes every day. Okay, and I remember one of the things that came out of that trial was they were saying how some of the jurors, and I'm not saying he's guilty or innocent, I'm not even getting into that. But what I am saying, well, he was declared innocent. But what I am saying is that some of the jurors were spellbound because it was O.J. Simpson. They were spellbound by his celebrity, by actually being in his presence. And they felt like it might have affected their judgment of the case. Again, I'm not trying to say he was guilty or innocent. I'm just saying, I'm pointing out that the celebrity of O.J. had some of the jurors spellbound. I remember once, I knew a basketball player I coached, and when he was coming out of college, he had just got drafted into the NBA, and he was still in the same area that I lived. Me and him didn't remain friends, but at this time, I was in a mall, and I'm in the mall, and all of a sudden, everybody started running and yelling, and I didn't know what was going on. And everybody was running, and I stopped. Somebody said, "What's going on?" I didn't know what was happening. At that time. It wasn't a whole lot of public shootings like there are now, so I wasn't thinking like that, like there was a shooting going on. I said, "What's going on?" Because everybody was running, and they were loud. They said the basketball player just walked in the mall, and they named him. I said, "That's all." He just walked in the mall, and everybody came running. That's the power of celebrity. And we also have to realize the power of messages in music, both for good and for bad, right? Remember, and let's look at Daniel. How did they all know when to bow? How did they all know when to bow to the man-made God? How did they know when to bow to the man-made God? You remember? What was the signal that was given? That's right. That's right. That's right. Let's take a look at it. Daniel chapter 3. Daniel chapter 3, verse 4, 5, and 6. Daniel chapter 3, verse 4, 5, and 6. Then an herald cried aloud, to you it is commanded, O people, nations, and languages, that at what time ye hear the sound of the cornet, flute, harp, sackbut, psaltery, dulcimer, and all kinds of music, that ye fall down and worship the golden image, which Nebuchadnezzar the king hath set up. Whosoever falleth not down and worshipeth shall the same hour be cast into the midst of a burning fiery furnace. So it was music that was the signal for everybody to bow to the man-made God. I remember, I came in, and many of you, I came into Christianity during a transition period of Christianity. When I first was in the Christian church with my grandmother and my Aunt Vin and my grandma, there was a stoicness, almost deadness about it. Like everything was in order, everything was quiet. It was an order about it. Over the course of time, things started changing. And one of the changes was the way music was brought to the fore. And then, I remember, because back in the 60s, they still called it. You ever heard this term? The black church, right? And so you would, if you wanted a rally, Martin Luther King started, they would have these rallies at the black church, and it would be revolving around music. It would be revolving around music. Okay. The music would get the people riled up, and that's what and they don't even know what they're jumping around about, but they would be all riled up, and the music would have them emotional. Then also, if you recall, when I was a boy, there used to be house parties back in the 70s. I ain't been in that scene for a minute. I mean, since I was a boy. But I remember how the mood of the party would change with the music. So they'd have jamming music and everybody be up dancing, right? And then at the time, you kind of knew what was going on. It'd be dark, right? And then they would slow the music down. And at that time, say, if you had been to a lot of parties, you knew you had to pick you out a girl so that when they slowed the music down, you could get close to somebody, because that's when you start, they called it the slow dance. Y'all remember the slow dance? You start slow dancing. And then they could put on some music that would cause a fight. If they put on certain music, it could cause people to get all riled up and it'd be like a fight. And if you're in the wrong spot, like I knew people that got killed because they put on the type of music that was aggressive and that was hard. And then people start getting loud. And then all of a sudden, I had a coworker whose son was murdered like that in Brooklyn. They had a house party and they put on some jams that was harder, and somebody shot him. Okay. And then I don't know how many babies was born as a result of the slow jams. Right. So they put the slow jams on and then it's on. Right. And so the music controlled the mood, whether it was anger, excitement, sensuality, or just party. The music controlled the mood. And so that's what I'm saying, so it's powerful, man. Now, I like music like anybody else. You see, when I was in the Adventist church, they would try to stop us from listening to music. They were scared, it would control us. And I guess I half understand it, but you like what you like, right? Well, the thing is, what I have learned is by the Spirit. See, this is the thing. The reason the music can control us is because of the Spirit that's in it. Does that make sense? So in other words, if it's a music that's going to make you mad, it's the spirit of the anger coming from the music that you're receiving. If it's a music that's going to make you want to get next to your favorite person and slow dance, it's the spirit of the music that's causing you to do that. Okay. And so music has a power with its spirit. Well, brethren, what I'm learned is the spirit of the Most High Yah. That's my God, Father. And his book. That's what I'm reading 22 times. That spirit overrules any other spirit. That spirit overrules, just like the Messiah overrules Asatan, that spirit overrules any other spirit. Because listen, we was out the other day, me, Castle King was out, and I'm going to tell you the truth, Mrs. Castle King, you should be happy with your husband, because I saw some things when me and Castle King and another buddy went out to eat. I saw some interesting things. And Castle King, he was keeping his head down. He said, I ain't looking. And I said, I'm looking. I can't help but see what's out there. Look at this, man. And I was like, Dad. And Castle King said, no, I ain't looking. Mrs. Castle King, you should be happy. And I felt kind of sad for Castle King, because I mean, you can't not see what you see, right? But you see the Spirit of the Most High says to me, thus far shalt thou go and no further. Right? Thus far shalt thou go and no further. Because I realized a long time ago, women are out here and look, they purposely are dressing a certain way to get a man to look at them. And for me to say, oh, I can't see it. You know, come on, man. What? I mean, I am a man. I'm just saying. That's what I kept telling Brother Cass. I said, listen, I'm a man. I ain't going to deny I'm a man, and I ain't going to act like I'm a woman. I'm not saying Cass can't what. But it takes a lot of effort to put your eyes down. You know, I was in Crown Heights, Brooklyn one time. A sister from the church I used to go to work for some Amalekites out there. And I walked, and she asked me to bring her something. She was working in one of them Amalekites' houses, and they had to bring her something from the church to the house where she was working. She was taking care of one of their babies. Anyway, I'm walking through Crown Heights, and I see all the men walking with their heads down. They wearing, they got the curls. It was a Hasidic neighborhood. They had the little curls. They had the black gangster hats. I call them gangster hats. That's what they always look like to me. And they had their black clothes on, and they all walk with their heads down. And so I asked the sister, why everybody, all the dudes in this neighborhood walk with their heads down? She said, because they don't want to look at the woman. It keeps them from sinning. And I found that to be odd, because I was like, you're not supposed to see it? But I was like, you're going to see what you see. You're going to see what you see. But the Spirit of the Father will keep you from going too far. He will. He's done it for me many times. Many times. Even times when I wanted to do it, he stopped me. I'm telling you. If you really want to serve the Father and you asked him, and you know why he stopped me? Because I asked him. I said, Father, you know what I'm going to do. I need you to stop me. And he would stop every time. Happened at least 3 or 4 times in my 40 years of marriage. And he stopped me every time because I asked him to stop. Because I admitted. This is where, again, where Jude says, ungodly. Remember, he kept mentioning ungodly people and ungodly deeds. Look at this. This is Jude. Jude verse 15, to execute judgment upon all and to convince all that are ungodly among them of all their ungodly deeds, which they have ungodly committed. So he uses the word 3 times in one verse, ungodly. And of course, I, searching the word, wanted to know what exactly is ungodly. What exactly is ungodly? What's the Bible say in Psalm 1? Blessed is the man that walketh not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor standeth in the way of sinners, nor sitteth in the seat of the scornful. But his delight is in the law of Yahweh, and in his law doth he meditate day and night. And he shall be as a tree planted by the rivers of waters, who bringeth forth his fruit in his season. His leaf also shall not wither, and whatsoever he doeth shall prosper. The ungodly are not so, but are like the chaff that the wind driveth away. Therefore the ungodly shall not stand in the judgment, nor sinners in the congregation of the righteous. Because the way of the Lord Yahweh knoweth the way of the righteous, but the way of the ungodly shall perish. So I wanted to know, what is an ungodly person? What is an ungodly person? Because I was like, what is that? And so the Most High led me to Psalm 32. Psalm 32 gave us the definition of ungodliness. And look at this. This is Psalm 32. See, brethren, also at the end of Jude, the last verse, it says, blessed be Yahweh, who has the power to keep you from falling. That's the key, brethren. The key is to come to your Heavenly Father with the understanding that you can fall. to come to your Heavenly Father with the understanding that you can be influenced for evil, to come to the Heavenly Father with the understanding that you can be duped, that you can be taken, that money can control you. You must come to him and say, these, I know me, I can fall and he will keep you. I'm just saying as plain as I can. His spirit will keep you in the midst of that. And I'm telling you, that's why I'm not afraid to look. If they want me to see, they can show. And half the time, I'm not impressed anyway. Honestly, I'm not. But sometimes I am. And I admit it. Sometimes I am. But it's what it is. And I never go the next step. Never go the next step. Okay? Praise the Most High. I'm just trying to tell you. But here in Psalm 32, it says, in beginning at verse 1, going down from verse 1 down to verse 7, Psalms 32, from verse 1 to verse 7. Blessed is he whose transgression is forgiven, whose sin is covered. Blessed is the man unto whom Yahweh imputeth not iniquity, in whose spirit there is no guile. When I kept silence, my bones waxed old through my roaring all the day long. For day and night thy hand was heavy upon me. That's called conviction. My moisture is turned into the drought of summer. Verse 5. I acknowledged my sin unto thee, and mine iniquity have I not hid. See, what's the use of saying, oh, I ain't seen it, and you know, you want to look. I ain't see it. You know, you want to look. Okay, I'll never forget the day that I learned this was a freedom day, brethren, because that's when I understood the power of grace and the power of the Spirit of the Father's righteousness. That's when I understood. Okay, that's when I got it. So I acknowledged my sin. And unto thee, mine iniquity have I not hid. I said, I will confess my transgressions unto Yahweh, and thou forgavest the iniquity of my sin. Verse 6. For this shall everyone that is godly pray unto thee in a time when thou mayest be found. Surely in the floods of great waters they shall not come nigh unto him. Thou art my hiding place. Thou shalt preserve me from trouble. Thou shalt compass me about with songs of deliverance. See, when I come correct and say, I can fall like that. And I knew, like I said, a good friend of mine was a pastor. He was a worldwide, on TV pastor. And I knew, I told my wife, when he went on TV, that was the downfall. When he went on TV, he got celebrity. And with the celebrity came more money. And with more money came sisters. And he ended up, at least once, cheating on his wife. He left his wife and his 3 children. They didn't want to talk to him till the day he died. He had a new wife and a child, and she never looked happy. And she wasn't the first one that he tried to get with. And I saw that, and I knew him. I knew him when he come out of college as a humble servant. He came out of college as a humble servant. He was so humble. And he was, and when he would speak, it was powerful. He was a former gang member from South Central LA and had come through a lot to become a pastor. And me and him, you know, we connected. And so when I saw him fall, I knew. I said, Father, yeah, it scared me. And I said, I need to pray, because I said, you know what? If it could happen to him, it could definitely happen to me. It could definitely happen to me. So I prayed, and I said, Father, keep me from falling, man, because, and like I said, I went through that I call it a midlife crisis. I felt like I missed out on something. What happened? I felt like all the ones that got away, man, I should have got them. And now I need to go back out and make up for lost time. I'm married now. But I said, Father, I need you to stop me. I know I'm talking crazy. I know I'm acting crazy. I don't know what this is, but I need you to stop me. Otherwise, I'm going to do it. And like I said, it was at least 3 or 4 occasions that he stopped me, including one woman that comes and said, she said, I want you. She said, but I can't touch you. She said, there's something around you. She said, I don't even believe in God. She said, but you are a man of God. She said that to me. She said, I don't even believe in God. I never did. She said, but you are a man of God. Then another woman said, what are you doing here? You don't have no business here. She said that to me. And I knew. And then I said, I understand. And I walked away. Because I asked the Father, stop me. Because I wanted it. See, I didn't deny that I wanted it. I didn't deny that. I said, this is what I want. And I know it's wrong. I said that. See, but for many of us, we think we're working in secret. Like the Father don't see you. Or you're trying to give yourself some sort of justification. Ain't no justification. Just say what it is. Just say what it is. That's what I said to my Father. I said, I'm going to commit adultery unless you stop. And I ain't from. I'm just telling y'all the truth, right? I'm just telling y'all the truth. For any man out there thinking like that, just be real. You be real with the Father, he's going to be real with you. Right? Solomon too, man. Well, I kind of understand Solomon and David because I always knew a man with a lot of power is going to fall. I mean, I always the Father gave me that from the word a long time ago. I knew a man with power. That's why my man, when he went on TV, that's when I told my wife, I said, he's in trouble. She said, what do you mean? She said, he's going to spread the message. I said, he's going to fall. He in trouble. Because getting on TV and having all, and this is the thing now, there are, and I'm not trying to down the sisters at all, godly sisters or godly sisters, and there's a lot of those. But I'm going to tell you, when you start getting on TV, there are women out there that just want a famous dude, that get off on somebody that's well known, that's famous. And if you're a preacher or a musician, y'all that play music should know what I'm saying. If you're a preacher or a musician and you're famous, there are women out there that just want, they don't care, you marry, whatever. Okay? And so when my man went on TV, he was big time. And then he started traveling to all these different countries. Then all of a sudden I started hearing from some of the brothers I knew. You know what he's doing? I said, what's he doing? And she said, and I was like, no. And I said, man, stop. That was gossip, man. But then his own wife. And then he shows up with another woman, another baby, and his wife and kids, who I all knew them. They didn't want to talk to him at all. They didn't want to see him. And when he died of stomach cancer. They didn't care. It was real bitter at the end. Real bitter. And it was because, and it all started when he got all famous. And he was on TV and he was going to all these different countries. He went to Africa, he went to Australia, he went to New Zealand. He was all over the world, man. And he was getting money from all over the world. The Most High, he was blowing on it. My man ended up broke and coming back humbly to his conference, and they took him back because he would raise a lot of money for them. So they took him back. But I'm telling you, celebrity is dangerous. Celebrity causing people to lose their mind and understanding. You remember, again, let's look at the word. Matthew chapter 4. Matthew chapter 4. And we know this deal. And anytime, and like I said, man, I see people in movies and I'll be looking at them and I'll be like, what the heck? What is it about this chick? Like, I seen finer chicks, when I go to New York. What's it about this chick? Why is she up there? Well, Matthew chapter 4 gives us the understanding. Matthew chapter 4, beginning at verse 8. Matthew 4, 8, 9, and 8 through 11. Again, the devil taketh him up into an exceeding high mountain and showeth him all the kingdoms of the world and the glory of them, and saith unto him, all these things will I give thee if thou wilt fall down and worship me. Then saith Yahushua unto him, get thee hence, Satan, for it is written, thou shalt worship Yahweh thy most high, and him only shalt thou serve. Then the devil leaveth him, and behold, angels came and ministered unto him. Yes, brethren, lots of people make that deal for less than what was shown there. Most people just want to be famous. There are people that have committed multiple murders, became serial killers to be famous. They have 15 minutes of fame. Okay, it's intoxicating. And the reason why is because people like P. Diddy. P. Diddy's famous. He's a multimillionaire, right? And so just to be around him, people waiting in front of the court, waiting for him to walk out. Disappointed, of course, because he didn't walk out, but they're waiting for him to walk out so they could just see him. That's all. They just wanted to see him. Yeah. There was a song once called Fame. Remember that? I want to live forever. I want people to see me and die. Fame. Then there was David Bowie did a Fame too. See? Fame. People want it. See? And people worship it. And that's why one of the many ways the devil is able to completely control people. Fame, celebrity, money and power, sex, money, and power. Same thing. The man came out with the song Cream. Cash rules everything around me. Cream. Cash rules everything around me. Get the money. A lot of people thinking like that, man. They steal, they'll do whatever to get the money. I sat here and watched my brother try to kill my father, man, because he wanted to get the money. I couldn't believe it till I saw it with my own eyes. But see, people would do that. They will do that. Money, sex, money, and power. And not only people going after it, but those that already have it get worshipped by those that don't. Those that already have it get worshipped by those that don't, which is why you see a crowd of people standing in front of Center Street in New York City waiting for P. Diddy. Those that don't have it will worship the people that do have it. Even to this day, Michael Jordan ain't played pro basketball in 25 years, but wherever he is, there's going to be a crowd. One day I saw Dr. J. I was at a basketball game and Dr. J was there. This was a long time ago. His sons were still like teenagers. And man, he looked at me like I was annoying him. I just said, what's up, Doc? I'm from Long Island. He looked at me like I was annoying him, disappointed me. I was like, oh, sure, it's like that. Forget you there. And his sons was just, they were rude, man. I was like, oh, I get it now. You all that. Okay. But see, that's what happens, man. That's the way it goes. And today you saw another example of the gods of this world. That people and the thing is, this crazy about it too, brethren, is that they're created. It's not like the Most High is not created, right? The Most High is who he is, though there are some fools out there that try to convince you that the Most High Yahweh is a created being. No, he's not created. He is the creator of all. See, but all of these people that's being called stars now are created. They're created by media, they're created by celebrity, they're created by money, they're created by power. They're created. All of them. Jeff Bezos is created. Warren Buffett, he's created. All of them created. And the devil is the one. All these will I give you if you bow down and worship me. He's the creator of these, what the world calls stars. And they have one thing in common. They all going to die. I have said, what the Bible says in Psalm 82, I think, I have said, you are gods, and all of you shall die like men. See? So today's lesson, don't get deceived by celebrity, sex, money, power, fame. Don't get deceived by that. People like bandwagoning. That is what they perceive as a winner. They jump on board. Every time there's a championship of team sport, whether it be baseball, basketball, football, all of a sudden the team that wins the Super Bowl collects a whole new bunch of fans. They call that bandwagoning. And then when they lose and there's a new champion, some of those fans jump onto that new team. And bandwagoning happens in all types of celebrity situations and fame and money situations. You got a lot of friends when you got a lot of money. A lot of people do. What we do is hang on to the yardstick of what is truth and righteousness. That's the word of the Father. What we do is seek the Father's Spirit to not only cover us, but grant us grace when we are weak. Because, you know, the Bible says the spirit is willing and the flesh is weak. Well, that's why we need more spirit. Does that make sense? Because the spirit is willing and the flesh is weak. We need more spirit. And we need to ask the Father for more spirit. Messiah said, with man, things are impossible. But with Yahweh, all things are possible. He can keep us from falling. He can keep us in his grace. I'm telling you as a witness, not on no daggone theory. I'm telling you from what I know, he can keep you from falling, keep you in his grace, okay, and get you through and cause you to be able to stand, which very shortly, that time is coming, as we know. Time to stand. Right? Time is coming. Time to stand, brethren. And only the Father's Spirit and grace can cause us to be able to stand through all of this stuff that we're seeing every day out here. You know, Solomon asked for wisdom. He asked for wisdom. And if you recall, why did he ask for wisdom? He said, you blessed my father David. You left me as king of this great nation. And I'm a boy. He said, I'm a child. I don't know how to lead no nation. I need wisdom. So he asked because he realized that he was in a big spot in the head of the whole nation of the chosen people of Yah. And so he asked for wisdom to guide him, you know, in that spot. You know what though, brother? I thought about it. I need wisdom just to get through day to day. You know what I'm saying? I'm not leading no nation. But I'm saying just to get through day to day, to avoid problems, to avoid issues, I need wisdom every day, you know. And I ask the Father for understanding and wisdom to just to be able to navigate through this world, because this world is at the state of all-time high wickedness on every side, man. It's all-time high wickedness. So we need wisdom. Yeah, exactly. We need wisdom to avoid just on a day-to-day basis, man, just to be able to navigate through this earth and keep our sanity. So yeah, ask the Most High. That's right. That's right. Javan, the Cherokee Indians, the Bible says, get wisdom. It is the principal thing. Therefore, get wisdom. And with all thy getting, get understanding. So the Father will give us both wisdom and understanding. Understanding and wisdom combined help you to make right decisions. And a lot of our troubles, right? I think we could all testify. A lot of troubles in our life have to do with bad decisions that we made, right? And we suffer the consequences of our bad decisions. Well, it's no problem. You go back to the Father and admit that you made some bad decisions, and he will guide you so that you can go forward and make right decisions. Just doing that. Just going to him with that. It's a right decision. Say, Father, I need your spirit, your wisdom to guide me in right decisions. I need your spirit and your wisdom to give me understanding of the true situation that I'm in so I can see it clearly and I can see the path that you are leading me down and walk. Again, a lot of us are beating up a wall or a door that's closed. And I had to tell my friend, like I told you, Patricia Gomez, I said, stop knocking on a door that's closed. Look for the door that's open. She said, how do I know? I said, ask the Heavenly Father to show you the open door. And when you see it, walk through it. The thing that makes it tough to do that is because we have to humble ourselves, number one. And then number two, when you see the open door, it's a door you wouldn't have chose to walk through. But you got to humble yourself to walk through it. Because the door you wanted is out of your pride. See? When we come godly, acknowledging our sin, acknowledging our shortcomings, acknowledging what we really are to the Father, that's godliness. That's godliness. Then he blesses you. He says, blessed is the man whose transgression is forgiven and whose sin is covered. Why do you get that? Godliness. Acknowledging my sin, acknowledging my transgressions, and not hiding them from the Most High or thinking we hiding them from him. He knows. He knows very clearly. He can see right through us easily before we were even born. So just come to him with what he already knows. Yep. So he will keep you from falling and help you navigate through this very dangerous world that we all live in. Praise the Most High, and cause us to, most importantly, to be able to stand for his glory when we need to. And that time, as we all know, is coming quickly. May the Most High bless you and keep you. And may he cause his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. And may he lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Shalom, Hebrew Israelite family.